I always sort of feel like these videos of the memories I have in my life will take, 20 minutes, maybe 25. But when I go digging through the graveyard of my memories, this weird thing sort of happens. I ask my horse, hey, take me to this place, right? I want to see this. So I grab my shovel and I stick it into the dirt, give it a good plunge, I give it a stomp, and then I scoop some dirt, and then I plunge it again, stomp again, scoop, plunge, stomp, scoop, and I dig for a bit, and then all of a sudden I fall through and I stand up and grab my shovel, brush myself off a little bit, and I'm like, whoa. Because I started at the top level and I dropped down and I look around and there's nothing but more gravestones. They've all got a little timestamp on them, a little event that happens, how I felt. So I might as well, I grab my shovel, I plunge and stomp and scoop, plunge and stomp and scoop, plunge, stomp, scoop, and I fall down through another layer. And it keeps going, it gets deeper and deeper. What is it that the Shrek, he says to his donkey? Ogres have layers? Or maybe it's parfait, I forget. I don't dare go down to the deepest, darkest bottom layer. I just go down 3 or 4, maybe 5. And I think I know what's down there at the bottommost layer already. I think it's just a single emotion, fear or sorrow or grief or jealousy. And I feel like every one of those bottom layers is just a human emotion. It's just one thing in a little gravestone. And in each human, it's the same emotion. Like my gravestone of fear is the exact same as yours, is the exact same of everybody else's. It's kind of weird like that. It reminds me of a story I once heard, and guys, this is not an original Bishop tale. I can't take the credit for this one. I forget where I first heard it. Sometimes I'll be doing dishes or something, cleaning, and my YouTube will just autoplay, right? It just picks something based on my previous searches or interests. So, guys, when I'm doing dishes, it's pretty angry. I am angry at those dishes. I'm just getting in there and getting it done, it's all anger mode. So I've got to have something on in the background, because if it's too quiet, I don't know, like when you live a lifetime full of chaos and noise, then the silence gets to be quite uncomfortable, maybe. I don't know. It's probably something I should study, right? Being okay with the noises in my own head. Anyway, I'm doing dishes one day and this story pops up on the YouTube, and it captures the front of my imagination. I think it's probably like 7 theories about the afterlife, some guy's talking. One of his theories is something called the God game. And I really like this story, so here you go. Once upon a time, there was a God, and he was kind of bored, because that's what it happens, right? So he calls up his girlfriend, the goddess, and he says, hey babe, can you come over? I want to play a game. And of course the goddess is like, I'm not interested in your games. I got to wash my hair tonight, so whatever. And God's like, no, it's serious. It's a real game. It's going to be awesome. Can you just come, come check it out? Okay, fine. So she shows up a little bit later and she's like, this better be good. And God's like, yeah, I've been thinking about this one. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to lay down and you're going to smash me into a million zillion little pieces and scatter me all over this planet down there, right? And the goddess is like, you want to do what? You want me to smash you into a million zillion pieces and scatter you on this planet? And the god says, yeah. So he lays down and he hands his goddess girlfriend this giant hammer, and she's like, well, okay. She takes her hammer and crash. She smashes him over and over until he's a true million zillion little pieces. And as his crumbs start to flutter down to the planet below, the goddess plays a little trick. I don't know, she's scandalous like that. She's just, mischievous. So before all the fragments reach the planet, she takes a deep breath and she blows on them all. And her breath causes them all to lose their memory. So here we all are, fragments of our God, wandering around, bumping into each other. We don't know who or what we are or why. And I like this unity, this idea that we're all the same, So I'm out here looking for you. If you're one of my people, email me, okay? So let's see, it was 1994, the autumn. I had graduated high school just barely, and I had moved back into my home. I guess, it was my childhood home. Technically, it was my mom's place now because my dad had left. So the real drive there was that I could spend every night with Amanda, and there was no confrontation about it. There was no shame or guilt or breaking Dad's rules. So Amanda and I don't know, I fixed up the basement. I hung some drywall on the ceiling. I cleaned a bunch. I made it as livable as possible. I moved Amanda's waterbed down there. And, we were happy. We were together. And it was kind of weird because for the first time ever, the sex that I was having with my girlfriend in our basement, it was allowed. My mom didn't come along and say, bad, 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 no, no, no. It was just untalked about, which was typical of my mom. But it reinforced this idea that if you did the sex right, there was nothing wrong with it. But if you did the sex wrong, there was this bomb, boom, it went off again. So in the beginning, I had told Amanda that I didn't need to smoke the weed all the time. I didn't need to smoke it when I was around her. I didn't need to be high. But I don't know, guys, the temptation, the desire to escape, it's just so strong, escape the noises in my head and just relax and just be okay. Because my brain was always going, always thinking about something. My horse might have been calm, but my rider was up there just looking around, narrating, telling stories. So we couldn't smoke inside, and we'd have to go outside every night to smoke cigarettes because Amanda smoked. And I was like, hey babe, if you're smoking cigarettes, I could just take a quick puff here or there, just a little bit. And it wouldn't change me. I'd be okay. I'd be the same guy, So she said, okay. And it didn't take much, when your tolerance is 0. So we'd go back into the basement and we'd watch movies together, or we'd play a video game, or we'd play with our cat, hang out with my little brother. I don't know. Life was sort of easy. I did start to notice that when I was helping my grandma, she was getting pretty bad. She was old, she was getting large. I remember she used to say, hey, Bishop, I need you to help me off my couch. She'd have sat in her couch for ever. And I would have to grab both of her hands with both of my hands, and I would have to lean back to help her lift up. And when she got to her feet, she would be all huffing and puffing, and it would take her a bit. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, this is not good, If she can't get herself off of her own couch. I went and got another job, pizza delivery, for a company called Hungry Howie's. Maybe you guys have heard of the Hungry Howie's, probably not. It was pretty small back then. I was a delivery driver, and Amanda was working at the IHOP making tips. I was delivering pizza making tips, and we had enough money. We paid my mom a little bit of rent, bought our groceries, bought some green. One night, I think it must have been November, I forget. I was on my last delivery of the night. It was 9-10 p.m. and guys, it gets pretty dark. I made a stop. I looked both ways and I proceeded to make a left turn right into a vehicle that was doing about 45, 50 miles an hour and had its lights off. So in the dark, I looked and I never saw him. He crashed right into me. Big explosion. My first accident was like head on head. So like I went headlights into headlights. This accident was like he hit me right in the front corner. So as I'm turning and turning, bam, all of a sudden my window hits my head. My whole world was just rocked. Guys, my first accident, I was pretty okay. Michelle, she hurt her hands. This accident, I was not so okay. And I didn't get a good picture of it. I was pretty sore and hurting. I didn't go to the hospital. I refused the ambulance because I told myself I was okay. But at the time, there's so much adrenaline, you know, you're pumped. So yeah, for a couple weeks there, I felt like I had gotten the snot kicked out of me and I was feeling rough. Here comes the wind again. Windy in Michigan, yay! Is my face red yet? It's a little bit cold out here, a little bit cold. So Amanda would rub me. She would give me massages every night. And it sort of made it more okay if I had to smoke the weed, you know? Like, I'm sore, I'm hurting, my head hurts. I probably had a concussion. My whole body just hurt. And the part that really sucked was that my vehicle was totaled. Like there was no fixing it. And my insurance company, they were like, oh, well, we say it's only worth this much. So it didn't matter if I still owed like $2,000. I was only compensated like $1,200. So Bishop, you don't have a car anymore. You just lost your job because you can't deliver pizzas. And you still owe $800 for this car that you can't drive anymore. And I remember this argument with my mom. Why do we need car insurance? Oh, because it's the law. Why do they charge us so much? Well, that's just what they do. For me, at age 19, this was just so unacceptable. I just wanted to scream and yell and fight and find the people responsible, but insurance companies, huh? They'll get you. When I crashed that second vehicle, I think I'd only had it for maybe less than a year. And my dad, he co-signed for the loan. So when I was no longer able to pay for it, you know, I just left my dad to pay for it. And I just told him, I'm sorry about that, Dad. You know, I'm a kid. What was I supposed to do? I lost my job. I was almost in an accident. Felt like I was going to die. So, yeah, I kind of sucked. It wasn't like I wanted to. I didn't want to leave my dad with the bill, but I'm sorry, Dad. I guess that officially made me a bad kid, you know? When Amanda and I had first started looking for apartments, we found that we couldn't afford much. You know, we were a couple kids, didn't have good credit, didn't have rental history. So we ended up going to my mom's. But we didn't really stop looking because the dream that we could have our own place someday, you know, make our own rules, be able to smoke inside, it was a big motivating factor, right? So we kept looking. In March of 1995, we learned something really cool. Amanda had an uncle and he happened to own a rental property. And recently his rental property was available, like move-in ready. So the price tag, you know, we were jumping up and down like, how much is it? How much is it? It's only $400 a month, which, you know, middle of the 90s, that's still kind of expensive, but hey, it's our own place, right? So right around the time of my 20th birthday, we moved into a little 2-bedroom on the south side of Grand Rapids. And it's kind of hard to see, but right there behind these shrubs, that was our house. So living room in the front, and this second bedroom, I turned it into the cool room. I threw a couch, my desk, a table, some chairs, and our whole house, you could smoke in it. And it didn't take long before all my friends said, "Oh my gosh, Bishop, you've got a house?" Yep, I've got a house. And wow, the joy that we felt to be able to buy our own vacuum, our own microwave, our own toaster, our own entertainment center. Like we bought our own plates. Of course, they had to be black. Our own cups. And it didn't take us long before we were just happy, you know. We found an ad in the newspaper that said free puppy. So we went and got ourselves a dog to go with our cat. And we named her Wendy because that was like one of our favorite restaurants, as well as a song by the band Descendants. Do you guys know the Descendants? There's a song called Wendy. Yeah, good times. 20th birthday. To be able to have your own place, sex as much as you wanted, no rules, no mom's rules, no dad rules, smoke cigarettes, smoke weed, have your friends over. I still miss that house. I don't have too many pictures of this time in my life because when I left my mom, I lost the camera, right? Like, guys, this is still before the smartphones, before we all had cameras. So I wish I had taken so many pictures of this time in my life, but I just didn't get to. And I remember I would go and like borrow my mom's camcorder for a little bit, and I would get some camera footage, and I would take that VHS tape and I would stick it in a really, really safe spot because I knew I wanted to keep it forever. But I don't know, it just, there's a future part of my story where I lose these VHS tapes and it really sucks, but we're not there yet. So the happiest time in my life, I think, you know, I had a dog, I had a cat, we went out and we bought a big old fish tank and we put a single goldfish in it. I think it was the free goldfish that you get at the Myers, it's a grocery store. And they had this thing called Kids Day, where if you were a kid and you showed up and you asked for a goldfish, they would hand you a bag and there was a goldfish in it. It was free. Customer appreciation, I think that's what they called it. So we were appreciated. Like I said, all my friends came, all of Amanda's friends came. It was the spot to be, you know. If you could smoke indoors on a cold day. And we played card games, we did role-playing games, we made food. It was a really cool life. My dad ended up buying a new computer, so he let me have his old computer, and I could still write my stories, I could still do my journal. I don't know. The only regret I have is that my friends and I, in our cool room, we would all be smoking weed all the time. That was our thing, you know, we just wanted to smoke weed. And Amanda didn't. She didn't want to be high. So there was always this divide between the smokers and Bishop and Amanda and just the cigarette people, which, you know, for me it was okay, but looking back, like I said, you just can't be on a different wavelength than your partner. It just doesn't work. I think in the summer of '95, I ended up quitting another job. I was working at a print shop. I discovered at an early age that I just didn't like working, you know? It was so much more fun to like hang out in my house and smoke weed and play video games and have sex with my girlfriend. And doing a job like 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day, I don't know. Maybe you can relate? I started doing these weird jobs, you know, like there was the door-to-door sales for the Kirby vacuums. And guys, that Kirby vacuum is awesome. But can you imagine me showing up at your front door doing a demonstration. I don't know, I just bounced around a lot, you know, I got bored, so I think I ended up signing up for the MLM, what is it, the multi-level marketing thing. This one is called Equinox, and they wanted you to sell these products. It was a big thing back in the day, you know. In Grand Rapids, Michigan, we have a thing called Amway, and Amway was a bazillion-dollar company that really just sold their own products. So this Equinox, there was like the healthy hair shampoo and conditioner, there was the energy drink, there was the water filtration system. And guys, I bought into it so hard, you know, this dream, this hope. Own your own business, you know, be your own boss, work your own hours, and all you gotta do is sell this product. I had watched some of my friends, they were starting to sell weed, and they were doing pretty good. You could afford to like pay for your own supply if you just sold a little bit of this, you know. So I was cool with trying. I was told that you have to buy like a minimum of $5,000 before you can get your spot in this pyramid. So I went to my dad and I said, hey, I need to take out another loan, you know, I'm gonna start my own business. And he looked at me and he was like, Bishop, what happened to the last loan that I co-signed for you? And I was like, Dad, I know, but this one's gonna be different. Come on, Dad. I was super excited. I really wanted to do this thing. I need you to just scribble your name, okay? I promise. I promise, Dad. I won't make you pay for it this time. So my dad said, okay, here you go. So he scribbled his name. Guys, the MLM thing, it just, I don't know. It was so easy to just smoke weed, you know? This escape. It just took away all the pressure. It took away all the doubts, all the little voice in your head that says, hey, you got to go find a job. You got to provide. You got to pay the rent. No, I don't. I just smoke weed and I forget about it all. I look back at this time and I see that my friends and the weed was everything, you know? And Amanda, she just kind of went, she did her own thing. And for me, that was okay because my mom and dad, they were rarely in the same room together for long when I was a kid. So, you know, if your partner didn't want to hang out, didn't want to be a part of the group, to me that was acceptable. That was a normal way to live. And it's weird, you guys. It's so weird how when we look back as a kid, whatever happened to us was considered normal. Like if your parents were abusive and they were beating on each other, that just became normal because we didn't know any better. We didn't have any better, you know? So I don't know. It was just two different people being young, not knowing how things were supposed to be, you know? So yeah, we didn't have a lot of money and it was my fault. And we had like Amanda's tips and she'd go to work every day and every night and she'd come home and find her boyfriend all high and hanging out with his friends and staying up late and none of the dishes got done and the dog pooped in the house again. I don't know. Just tough. Hard to be a kid sometimes. Or it's hard to grow up sometimes because we want to stay kids forever. We want to be lazy. I wanted to be lazy. I'm so sorry, Amanda. I'm so sorry, girl. So towards the end of 1995, I found a real job and I became a forklift driver or a high-low, right? You got the forks, you go beep, beep, beep. I think it was like a book binding place, a big warehouse, lots of books. I don't think this job lasted more than a month. I was picking up a pallet of books or a skid, and I don't know if I went too high or too fast or I was still moving. Guys, you know, I wasn't maybe the most alert. I was probably thinking about going home and smoking weed with my friends and the new video game. Our games at the time was Mortal Kombat 3, Mortal Kombat, and there was a game called Mutant League Hockey. Do you guys know this one? Mutant League Hockey. Very cool back in the day. Anyway, I was picking up this pallet of books, and I accidentally bumped into a little old lady. I kind of bruised her shin. She had a little spot of blood. I immediately jumped off my forklift. I said, oh my gosh, are you okay? I'm so sorry. You know, it was an accident. But if you have an accident with a forklift. So I lost that job. I was fired. I went and found another job at another print shop doing delivery. So I was driving around the company vehicle. I had a tow truck. He had the big grill on the front of his vehicle too, like the big smashy grill. And he crashed right into me. Like he ran a red light, smashed right into the back of my little station wagon. Again, company vehicle, but Bishop, this is your third crash. You've only been driving for like 4 years. How do you keep crashing? I don't know. Granted, the first one was my fault. The second one, the guy had his lights off, so whose fault was that? And the third one, this one was pretty bad also. Like, he hit me right behind my driver's side door. So we weren't going all that fast. He wasn't going that fast. But if I had been a second slower, or if he had been a second faster, so Amanda's starting to get extremely frustrated, right? No jobs, car crashes, no money, always hanging out with the friends. Yeah, it was just bad. And I look back, you know, I look at all these times in my life when escaping was valid. It was a viable option, okay? So my mom with her not talking about it, and my dad with his, just avoid it, Bishop, just avoid it. I ran from church, I ran from the dentist, I ran from my parents fighting. Even my vacation with Amanda, when we both sort of ran away together, it showed me over and over again how running was valid. You could run away from your problems, you know, smoke in the green. And at this point in my life, I just feel like I wanted to run away from my own situation, you know. I loved my house, and I loved my girlfriend, and our dog, and our cat, and our giant fish. Our little goldfish, it has started out to be this small. It was like the size of my hand. It was huge. It was beautiful. I threw a cinder block in there. It looked awesome. So on the outside, with all my friends, life was good, you know. But on the inside, yeah. Okay, I wish I had pictures of all my friends, because there was just a gang, right? I was kind of their leader, which I think that happens if you're like the oldest child, you know? You're used to telling people what to do, and you're used to them listening. Anyway, Amanda had her girlfriends, Julie and Tara. I had my gang of Chad and Sam and Second Tara. There was Cortland and Missy and Fat Tony and Scott and Ben and just people all the time, you know, in my life, coming in and out. There was one guy, they called him Goofy. Goofy. I was like, why do they call you Goofy? They said, well, you'll find out. I said, Goofy, what's your real name? He said, Chad. I said, well, we've already got a Chad, so you're Goofy. There was another guy, his name was Kevin, and Kevin's older brother was Aries, so we got along. And he was also the game master of his role-playing group. So he and I, Kevin's brother, his name was Ryan, we're both Aries, we're both game masters, we're both smoking pot. We got along real well. I miss that guy. I miss all of my friends, you guys. It was like I had my own tribe, you know, and everybody looked up to me, or maybe they were just scared of me, because if you were in Bishop's house, you know, be careful or Bishop won't let you back into his cool room. There was just this huge loss of hope, you know, when my MLM didn't work out, when I wasn't going to become a rich millionaire. I still had this loan to pay off. Like, I couldn't leave it on my dad to pay it off. Like I promised him I would pay off this loan. So there was no structure, you know. I found myself just going to my grandma and helping her out and getting 20 bucks and then just calling it good, you know. I'd spend all my money on the green. I don't know. I just felt so horrible that, you know, what could I do different? Like, New Year's came, 1996, and I actually went and found a decent job. It was delivering auto parts, which, you know, I found that I really like to do like delivery jobs, especially if it was not using my own vehicle. So another cool thing that happened was that one of my best friends, Chad, his parents had a cabin way up north in the woods, out in the middle of nowhere on a small lake. And every once in a while, Chad would borrow his parents' keys to the cabin. And then we would have a party. And oh my gosh, the cabin parties were epic. I was introduced my first time to something called acid, or LSD. It was this little tiny piece of paper, a little square, and you just put it on your tongue. And oh my gosh, I loved acid. I loved tripping, smoking weed, partying with my friends. Of course, Amanda didn't even come to the cabin parties. She wanted to stay at home and do her own thing. I remember coming home from a cabin party, and Amanda was not happy. I guess she just wasn't happy with me because we just didn't talk much, you know? We didn't spend much time together. The sex was horrible for her, and I wasn't paying my share, you know? It was basically like I was just using her to pay the bills so that I would have a place to hang out with me and my friends. So I tried to talk to her. I asked her what was wrong. I didn't really want to have this conversation. I think it had been building like this for quite some time, and I had been avoiding it, you know? So Amanda says, look, I think we should move out. I said, what? This is our house, right? She says, well, I don't feel like you want to be here with me. I don't feel like you want me to be here with you. This is just not working. And I freaked out and I said, look, babe, I just got a job, you know, I'm working. This is a job I think I can keep. We're doing this, you know, it's going to be okay. And she finally dropped the bomb on me and she said, I've been seeing someone else. And I thought, wow. Instantly, my first thought was, well, I'm going to find this guy, I'm going to beat the fuck out of him, and then it'll be all better, right? Like I could rescue the princess in one of my role-playing games and live happily ever after. I didn't really care what she wanted. It was all about what I wanted. So I did. I went and I found this guy. He was friends of a friend of a guy that worked at the IHOP with Amanda. And I pretty much stalked him. And I grabbed my gang of friends and we stalked him too. And I never got physical with him. I don't even think I confronted him. I think I realized rather quickly that this just wasn't going to work. This was not how you treat people, especially the people that you claim you love. But I don't know. It was just a tough time, you know. Like I said, the role model was my parents, and if they weren't good, so I pretty much ended up doing the same thing my dad did, you know. I manipulated, I threatened, then I tried to bribe, then I tried to use the kids. I said, babe, what about our dog and our cat? What's gonna happen to them? Are you gonna take them with you? And Amanda said no. She was moving back home with her parents. Couldn't keep the dog or the cat. Well, what if I can't keep the dog or the cat? What's gonna happen? And I tried, I begged, I pleaded. It just didn't work, you know. Amanda and I had been together for about 4 years. We'd been through a lot. She came and saw me at the mental institution. We lived together. We tried to do it. We tried to be grown-ups. But about May of 96, I was 20 years old and I moved out. And it was hard. And I look back and I just want to tell her I'm sorry. Amanda, I still love you so much. And I'm so sorry. I was such a crappy person. you know, I guess you got to mess up before you figure out what works, right? You got to learn by your mistakes. I just wish that one had not been so costly. Guys, it is super cold out today in Michigan. Stupor is like super mixed with stupid. And there's this thing, it's called freezing rain. So we're gonna sit in the car for a little bit. I learned after moving out that my grandma had a little slip and fall, and that she was in the hospital for a while. So I thought, well, grandma's house is empty. I can bring my dog and my cat there, you know. Didn't really know what to do with the fish. I mean, it's a giant fish tank. You can't just like put this in the back of your vehicle and drive it around. So I also learned that, okay, we got to go back a little bit. My dad was an only child, but he had some cousins, and two of his cousins were about his age. They were both beautiful females. One of them was Susie and the other was Kathy. And my dad hung out with Kathy and Susie a whole bunch, I think. And I'm not sure what all they did or didn't do. You know, they were cousins, but guys, this was like the 60s, right? So, I don't know. They had both gone different ways in life, but my dad's cousin Kathy had moved to Florida, and she was in town. She had come back to help out my grandma, who was struggling, and of course I was too busy to help out grandma. But I also wonder if maybe my dad's cousin Kathy just wanted an escape of her own, you know? So for her to come to a place called Michigan and help my grandma, you know, that was cool. So my dad's cousin Kathy, and I and my dog and cat, we sort of lived in my grandma's house for a little bit while she was in the hospital. And oh my gosh, Kathy was probably 20 years older than I, but she was super cool. She smoked cigarettes, she smoked weed, and she was just wise, you know, like she had lived some life. So when I was explaining my difficulties with Amanda and why we broke up and how much it hurt, you know, how much my heart just ached, Kathy was there, and she'd give me a hug, and she'd say, yeah, I've had those problems. I know what you mean, Bishop. You know, this desire to escape, difficulties in romance and communication, and, you know, responsibilities. So she got it. And I don't know, many times we would just hang out in my grandma's garage and smoke together, or we would go to like a billiards hall where you can shoot pool. You guys, Kathy was pretty good at pool. I was okay. But it was just, I don't know, to have something like a friend, you know, somebody who, I don't know, it's hard to explain. I was attracted to her, sure, but it wasn't like, I don't know, when your heart gets broken, you don't really want much else, you know. I just wanted Amanda back. I wanted a second chance. I still reached out to Amanda many times. I still drove past her house. I would see her on her front porch smoking a cigarette, and I would pull up and say, hey, you know, can I smoke with you? And she'd say, okay, sure. So we'd talk for a couple minutes. I'd tell her I was sorry, how I'm trying to change. I still got my job, you know. I'm still delivering vehicle auto parts. But at this point, you know, our relationship was pretty much over, especially the way I treated her new friend. I had to be careful about asking about him too. It was a very sensitive topic because Amanda was scared, you know, and once you're scared of your partner, so it was rough. I don't know. I remember my dad, he was looking at buying a house around this time, and eventually, I think in June, it actually happened. It was a big old house up on the northwest side of Grand Rapids, And I went to my dad and I said, hey Dad, I need a place to stay, you know. He said, Bishop, what about this loan? Are you paying your loan? And I kind of said, yeah, sort of. But I have a job and I've got a car and I'm working and I'm not going to quit this job and I'm going to pay off the loan. And Dad, I really need a place for my dog and my cat, you know. So he said, okay, Bishop, one more chance. But no girlfriends, you got to obey the rules. You know, all my rules, you got to obey. And I said, okay, I promise. Because at this point, I didn't have a girlfriend anyway. I didn't feel like getting a new girlfriend. I don't know. So I helped my dad move all of his stuff out of his old apartment. Moved into the new house. The backyard was all fenced in. It was good to go for a dog. And there was this huge basement, you know. Basement with a bathroom, had a shower in the basement. So I pretty much moved into the basement. I still had like a couch. I still had a coffee table, you know, an entertainment center. So yeah, as far as recovering from the move out of my first house with Amanda, I guess I did it, you know. My heart was still broken. But I picked up all my pieces and I moved out and I looked at starting my life over, you know. One of the things that Kathy had told me was that, hey, Bishop, if you ever want, you can come down to Florida and you can stay with me for a little bit and I'll help you get a job down there and I'll help you find an apartment, you know. And guys, this idea was just, oh my gosh, this was the rainbow, right? This was the silver lining on the cloud. This is what I wanted. I just wanted to get away, you know. So I could leave Michigan and go all the way to Florida. Like, sign me up. Where do I sign? I'm ready. Kathy says, well, let's hold on now. We got to figure out this thing with your grandma. But yeah, you know, when she's good, come on down. So I remembered this. I said, oh my gosh, Kathy, I'll be there. So I gave her a big hug and she jumped on a plane and she left. My grandma came home. I told my dad I would help take care of my grandma again. It just felt like some things had stayed the same, but other things had changed, you know. I was a single guy, no more school. My grandma was still needing help, but my dad was still willing to help me. I still had my dog and my cat, which was a nice distraction. But the reminder that these were your pets with Amanda, like, hard to forget, you know, your first love, your first kiss, your first sex, first roommate, first everything was tied to Amanda. And everywhere I looked, there was the restaurant that we went to, and there was the cemetery that we walked through, and there was this thing that we did on 4th of July, and I don't know. I feel like this was the end of the first stage of my adulthood. You know, my childhood sort of left. My childhood ended when my dad moved out. And, you know, for those past 4 or 5 years, I was pretty much my own adult, you know, driver's license, jobs, girlfriend, house. But moving out of this house, this was kind of the end of the first stage of my adulthood. Yeah. Do you have freezing rain in your part of the world? Do you love it as much as I do? Freezing rain. All right. I love you all. Share your story. I'll see you next time. My cold purple hands. I think they're still purple. Yeah, they're purple. Maybe red. Can you see the red?